Welcome to this very special edition of the Author's Voice with KJ, a show where we explore the stories behind the stories. Here we dive into the worlds created by authors, discover their inspirations, and ensure that you walk away enriched and inspired. And today we have with us author Matthew Edgar is a partner at Elementive, a Colorado-based consulting firm specializing in, as he says, taking the complexity out of SEO and website performance. He's written a couple of books. We'll talk about his latest book, Speed Metrics Guide. So let's dive into the story behind the story. Welcome to the show, Matthew.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Welcome once again to the KAJ Masterclass, this time on the Author's Voice with KAJ. So we'll be talking about your book. But before we talk about the book, Matthew, having such a busy life, you what prompted you to become an author? You wrote another one book, and this is another book. I don't know of any other books that you will be able to tell us a bit about your journey, your background, and also about your inspiration for becoming an author.
Yeah, well, I am a consultant and I help out clients. I've been doing that work for a couple decades now. I'm working with lots of clients, helping them optimize their websites. And one of the things that's always been important to me through that is education. I never want to just help clients out, with just solving a problem. That's great. I enjoy doing that, but I want to make sure that I help my clients understand, some more details about why that problem happened and what they need to do about it, understand the context of it. So that way, if they understand those things and learn those things, it's more likely that they'll be able to adjust their processes and adjust how they approach things to avoid those problems in the future. So that's always been a core part of how I approach consulting and working with clients is making sure that they are able to really understand everything. And of course, that requires me being able to understand everything too. I spend a lot of time just learning new things, testing new things, trying things out. And so very naturally that lends itself to wanting to share information in every form I can. That's conference talks and recording videos and webinars and writing articles, but also certainly writing books and using that as a way to share this information and help walk people through some really complicated subjects, particularly when we're talking about things like technical SEO or website speed. It gets complicated fast, and a book is a great medium to walk through all the complexities within that and explain all the big questions that we need to think through with those different subjects.
Absolutely, Matthew. So let's talk about the book itself. Speed Metrics Guide. It's there on the screen. We can see that. This is the book. What is this book all about? It talks about speed. It talks about metrics. It talks about guide. How do we know who this book is for?
Yeah, I wrote the book really for everybody who works on a website. So this is people who are more technically inclined, like developers or engineers, but also for people who are brand new to it or don't really understand the code or the intricate details and are approaching it from a non-technical standpoint. And that might be founders at a company or executives. That might be designers or SEOs or other marketers who know that speed matters, know that speed is a big part of optimizing and improving their website, but don't necessarily understand all the intricate parts of this. And speed is one of these topics that becomes complicated very, very quickly, right? You start running into tons of acronyms and lots of jargon and lots of numbers, and it just kind of becomes overwhelming. And what I wanted to do with this book was walk through what each metric is actually measuring. So if you see a number and you say, okay, my first contentful paint is this, or my time to first byte is this, or I see something about total blocking time. What do these numbers actually tell you? What are these? And how I approached it in the book was walking through how the website loads. So each chapter takes the website loading process step by step. So the few milliseconds that something happens, I walk through that and explain, okay, what is happening in those milliseconds or seconds, step by step, and what are each of those metrics telling us? So that way we can really understand not just, how to improve speed, not just, how to, get a certain number, the definition of a number, but really behind the number. Like what is going on, on the website load? What is that number actually telling us? When we look at it. So when we look at a number like first contentful paint, largest contentful paint, or pick any number, any metric that's out there, what is that actually telling us? Where does that fit within the website loading process?
Absolutely. So, how do people use this book? What is it that you were hoping it will do for for your audience, or even for your own business, in that sense, that in terms of making money for you, in terms of sharing your knowledge, and obviously for the audience, what did you want this book to do?
Yeah, I would say my biggest goal was trying to take a different approach to defining different metrics that are out there. Right, there's a lot of people talking about speed. There's a lot of people talking about speed in terms of how do you improve speed, or what are the specific tactics. I wanted to go a level deeper than that and walk through, uh, you know, okay, how do you actually understand these metrics? And so for me, one of the biggest goals was trying to bring all the different information that's out there about different metrics together in a way that I could explain that and define those terms more clearly. And that's something that I found to be extremely valuable to help both myself and clients I work with understand sort of the deeper meaning behind speed, and understand speed at a deeper level. And if you understand it at that level, it becomes easier to improve things. So now you understand, oh, okay, I need to actually fix this area of the website, or I need to fix that area instead of this other one. And it's very easy with speed to end up fixing the wrong things. If you don't understand, some of the details. So that was probably my first and most important goal, was both for my own sake and for helping out clients, providing that deeper level definition. In terms of the impact, for me, personally, I think it's an opportunity to share information in different ways, get things out there in another way, offer my perspective. I've benefited a ton over the years from information shared by other people, and so for me personally, this is a way to pass that along, and share some things that I've learned with other people, and as a way to I guess to use the cliche statement, but pay it forward. I've benefited from other information. Let me share some of the information that I've picked up, and maybe a different perspective that I can offer.
Absolutely, Matthew. So, if I understand, this book was written last year. It came out last year.
Correct.
Correct me if I'm wrong. So, how does a book like this maintain relevance? A year later, when things are changing so fast, have you dealt with that, or do you think an update is required, or maybe it needs some different perspective? Now things have changed. How do you look at it from that point?
Yeah, when it comes to speed, and I would say this is applicable to all aspects of websites. There are things that change, but then there are a lot of fundamentals that don't. So as I look back on the book a year later, it came out about a year ago. And I look back on it, there are definitely things in there that have shifted. Particularly sections where I talked about different tools that can be used to measure the metrics. Some of those tools have released upgrades. They do things a little bit differently. They offer things in different ways, and those things certainly have changed. And those things, even as I was writing the book, I knew they were going to change. They were even changing as I was writing the book. But then there are fundamental aspects that do not change. And that's what the bulk of the book is really about. The bulk of the book walks through, how does website load, and how do we understand how a website loads by measuring different aspects of it. That part of the book is talking about stuff that's been true, on websites going back to the very earliest websites, right? The very earliest websites had to do the same things that websites today have to do. They have to connect to a server. Browsers have to receive code from a server. Browsers have to do something with that code. So the website loading process itself hasn't changed really, and those fundamentals still apply. And the way in which we need to evaluate those fundamental aspects, those ways in which the website loads, remains the same. The methods we use to measure those, that's going to be different. The other thing that has shifted and changed and will continue to evolve is what those numbers need to be, what counts as fast. And so, we do see that, okay, as internet speeds get faster, we can load websites faster. So the expectations become, that the website needs to be faster. And so, whereas a few years ago, maybe it was okay for, certain metrics to be maybe a little higher than it is now, that will continue to change, so the specific numbers might be a little bit different, that we're aiming for, but the general idea of what we're measuring, that's what I was really trying to capture within the book, and that's something that has remained, consistent, and I hope that is something that continues to resonate and be, something that's of use, even though the book, did come out a year ago.
Absolutely, absolutely. Have you mentioned talked also about SEO in the book? Because that's also a very integral part of the thing. And even if not, I want to understand, how do you see this whole SEO thing? Last year it was just SEO. This time we are talking about AI SEO. Has it simplified our lives, or has it become more complex for a common person?
I I think both. It's both made some things complicated, some things more simplified. The parts that are more complicated now is that we have more tools to pay attention to. It's not just Google's world anymore. We have to think about OpenAI. We have to think about Perplexity. Even Bing with Copilot is now something we have to think about. Meta, their AI tool is gaining a lot of ground, and that's something that a lot of websites are having to think about now. So in that regard, it has gotten more complicated because there's more that we need to think about. I would also say that it's gotten more complicated because a lot of websites, because of AI search, are seeing less traffic come into their website. And if you're getting less traffic, it becomes very important to make sure that the traffic you do get converts as well as possible, that they engage as much as possible. And speed plays a big part in that. You need to make sure that your website loads really fast. The last thing you want, if you're getting less traffic coming to your website, you don't want that lower volume of traffic to not engage or not convert because your website is loading too slow. And that's where, as we think about where speed fits in now, and how it plays a role in SEO in particular, it is one of those fundamental aspects that we have to think about that affects everything within a website. It affects how people use the website. It affects how bots from search engines and bots from AI tools are using the website. And in that regard, we have to think about speed, I would say, more now than we did before. Uh, does that make it somewhat more complicated? Yeah, because there's a lot of complications that come up with speed. How you have to build a website, to make it load faster, is a hard thing to do. It is hard to make websites load fast. You have to think through a million different questions and make a bunch of different decisions, and that does make it more complicated. And I would say that's true of all aspects of SEO at this point. Everything, because we have more tools to think about, because it's not just Google anymore. We have to think about all the intricacies of all these other bots coming to the website from different AI companies, and as a result, they're all different. They all have slightly different behaviors. We have to, really change our perspective on, okay, how do we build the website to support not just Googlebot that we generally understood pretty well, but all these other bots that, we don't really understand that well. How do we get to know these bots, well enough? And how do we make sure our website works for them, both in terms of speed, but in terms of other, factors as well about how the website is written, how the website is coded, and how the website is structured.
Absolutely. So, in a nutshell, what do you want? What key message, insight you want readers of this book to take away with them?
The biggest message I would want people to take away from reading Speed Metrics Guide is that speed doesn't have to be intimidating. It doesn't have to be something that seems like it's only for developers to do. Yes, developers play a big role in making website fast, but there's a role for everybody to play within making the website load faster. And I think it's really important that everybody who works on a website understands all the pieces and parts of what's going on with speed, not necessarily at a technical level, but understands, the overall meaning behind each of these metrics, and is able to read a speed report, understand where the problems exist within speed. Maybe you don't understand, all the complications of how JavaScript is loaded and how the page is rendered. It's okay, but you should understand, when you look at a metric, oh, this, tells me that I need to do X, Y, and Z to improve my website speed. So that's my hope for the book, is that people can read it and have that understanding of being able to measure their website speed, diagnose problems on their website related to speed, and be able to use that to more correctly optimize their website speed.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you've got two books now. One is the Tech SEO Guide, then the Speed Metrics Guide. Any other book in the pipeline? Any other projects that you are doing that you want the world to know about, Matthew?
Yeah, not right now. I'm not working on any new books. Right now, my focus is on trying to understand the new world of AI search, and it's changing so rapidly. It's changing so much that I do fear that if I were to write a book about the things I know today, it will be outdated by the time it gets published, because so much is changing with AI search. So hopefully, in the future, there's as the AI search world settles down, maybe there's a new opportunity for that. But for right now, that's where my focus is and what I'm helping clients out with these days.
Absolutely. There's so much to learn from you, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to connect with you, learn more from you about your alimentive, and also, about your books. What's the best way for them to do so?
Yeah, you can learn more about Elementive at elementive.com. Learn more about what we do with speed, technical SEO, and AI search, and how we approach and help clients with that. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn, sharing information about speed, technical SEO, analytics, and all the various related subjects. So you can find me on there, connect or follow me on LinkedIn. Also pretty active on YouTube if you prefer to connect that way.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the Author's Voice with KJ. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.